Published 0834 the 30th of November 2017, updated 1053 the 30th of November 2017, with the news this week that for the first time all of Britain's biggest lenders passed the Bank of England's financial stress tests. It could be a good time to snap up some shares in them. The likes of Barclays, RBS, HSBC and Lloyds were all given a clean bill of health and adjudged to be well enough stocked up on capital to withstand severe shocks to the economy such as a disorderly Brexit. In light of this, the shares arguably present a safer bet than they have done over recent years. Being a safer bet and delivering good returns are two different things though, of course. Lloyds safely negotiated the Bank of England's latest round of stress tests. Bank shares have been on a roller coaster ride, but there are reasons to think they could be in for a better spell over the coming few years. Looking at the share prices of the four big ftse 100 listed banks, Barclays, RBS, Lloyds and HSBC, they have seen a wide variation in fortunes, but all remain a long way beneath pre-financial crisis levels. Given they are very much a mixed bag, it may pay to pick one or two rather than all four, based on things such as your preference for dividend income over share price growth and time horizon for the investment, and as always, only a small slice of a portfolio should ever be put into any one stock. There is also significant difference in the share price to book assets ratio and dividend yield, the amount paid out relative to the share price as shown below. While it's very easy to find companies doing badly, the tricky part is finding ones that offer reasons to believe better times and a sustained rise in price are coming. When looking at UK banks, this week's clean bill of health received from the Bank of England could provide one such reason. There is also the beginning of the rate tightening process globally to consider. Central banks in the US and to a lesser extent the UK have set out on a rate rise cycle, while the European Central Bank has taken some tentative steps towards reining in its monetary looseness. While we are not far along the path, the direction of travel has been made clear, and that should be good for banks. Banking profitability is tied to interest on the cash it holds and lends, and broadly speaking, the higher the rate, the better the profits, up to a reasonable point. This is because as the rate goes up, the spread between what it receives in the money markets and what it pays out to customers in interest widens. Of course, all this is blown out of the water if a severe economic shock occurs and a bank is not sufficiently well stocked with cash reserves, as happened in the financial crisis of 20,072,008. A lot of lessons have been learned since then though, and the successful passing of the stress tests this week is evidence of that, to some degree at least. Rob James, financials analyst and co-manager of the Old Mutual Contingent Capital Fund, sees the stress test results as significant step and says it may signal an improvement in dividend payouts from the banks. What is deeply reassuring about this year's test, despite all the above, is that every bank passed. So in answer to that perennial question, are we nearly there yet? This time the response is a resounding yes. The implication is that our banking system can absorb catastrophic losses, including the continuation of litigation and conduct fines, and still be in a position to supply credit to the economy during the stress, James said. Of course, all this extra security in the system comes at a cost. Banks are now far less leveraged than they were in the past, and their returns are now far lower than they were, he continued, but those same returns should be much less volatile, which makes the dividend-paying capacity of the system high. So, as investors, we can once again look forward to high dividends from these stocks, something we have not seen for quite some time. Barclays has stashed away cash reserves to allow it to withstand any downturn. The banks are likely to benefit from an improved economy with global growth fairly robust, and with interest rates now rising, bank profits should also benefit, noted Adrian Locock, investment director at wealth firm Architas. Banks tend to perform better during the latter phases of the economic cycle as consumers become more confident and borrow and spend more. It is important also to consider each bank on its own merits, as they have different exposures and are at different stages in their recovery. Lloyds is very UK-centric and largely out of the woods, but is dependent on UK mortgages, so is most at risk in a recession. RBS is still recovering, but it does look as if progress has been made. Barclays and HBSC are more international in their makeup, so would benefit from stronger growth from overseas. Aberdeen Standard Investments global head of credit research Laurent Frings remains skeptical, however, largely due to the B word. There's no great surprises here, he said. Barclays and RBS were widely expected to be the weakest performers in the extreme stress scenario. Overall, the results show that there are pockets of problems in the sector, but that the banks are broadly ticking all of the right stress test boxes. They are now much better capitalized and more heavily scrutinized by the regulator than before the crises. But the tests have also focused this year on non-bank risks with an emphasis on Asia. The reality is that Brexit is the key risk today for the UK banking system. Leaving the EU is going to cause the UK banking sector all sorts of stresses that these tests just do not account for. Stock analysts at Investec have a mixed opinion on the banks as well. They have a buy recommendation for Lloyds and sell recommendations for RBS and HSBC. They are undecided on Barclays at the moment as they continue to review its prospects.